Ladies and gentlemen, ears of corn all over the internet and the world, welcome to the Corn Chronicles. The search continues. Tonight's guest is the one and only Sean Taylor, was his name. There he is, man. Sean Taylor, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm well, thanks. And you?
Very good, my friend. Very good. Thank you so much for joining me, man. Sean Taylor and I go way back to high school. A couple of years older than me. He was in my sister's grade, but through the magic of basketball and some music, even though you don't really play very much yourself, but certainly it feels like through music we're connected. I think that's kind of a strength of kind of a strength of the depth of the friendship, we'll say at this point. But man, Sean and I go way back in a lot of different ways, so it really means a lot for him to join me this evening.
Happy to be here.
Now, Sean, I want to start things off with when we met. And I think when we met, it was pretty underwhelming, don't get me wrong. I think where I first remember meeting you is playing actually hacky sack out in the back of the high school in the lunchroom, because I was a friend of Ben's, and obviously you were likely best friends with Ben at the time, and I know you would join us to play hacky sack every now and again. And I remember my first thoughts being like, "Holy crow, that's a big dude," you know. But also, I think I remember you playing with us about 10 times, and I think 3 of those times you wound up like, instead of like kicking it softly, you wound up just like booting it onto the roof.
Yeah, I don't have good control over those things. It's a mix of like clumsy and like not knowing my own strength.
Exactly, so. Man. I wasn't even gonna go with clumsy, although, no. No, it's definitely the strength thing, man. Suddenly we're playing hacky sack and it looks like Hulk Hogan comes steaming through, But the reason I bring that up is even before we were good friends, is every time that hacky sack would be roofed, I would hear the all too familiar refrain of, "You want to do it for me, or should I finish it up?"
Please.
Damn it.
Okay.
And I just want to address right out the gate, before we even get to anything, there was no sweeter sound in the world in my mind, and I played a lot of music, than Sean Taylor earnestly saying "damn it" without something in front of him, man. Because to be honest, man, Sean is a gentleman of such pure heart that when those kinds of frustrations set in, man, it's just coming from the most honest place imaginable, man. Very, I don't know, man. I mean,
it definitely became a catchphrase of sorts throughout the years, like through poker games, basketball games. Like I said, I'm very clumsy, so a lot of missed layups, missed free throws, bad all-in calls, just yeah, followed by the infamous 2 words.
No doubt. To be honest, man, Sean, basketball-wise, I know you have skills, but I'm going to go ahead and agree with the bad all-in calls. That's for sure.
There are plenty to go around.
Sean, on a very serious note, well, not very serious, but one of the things, or a couple of the things, I've always respected a great deal about you, and this is beyond just having a good time with a bud. Certainly 2 of the things I admire very much about you. One, I think we have in common. One, how much you put family first. I've always respected and appreciated that about you. I take a lot of guidance from you in that way, and I certainly follow your lead. I appreciate that. Another thing that I have a lot of admiration for is your work ethic. You're genuinely the only person I know, and we've had these talks, where you've literally said, like, "Yeah, I just got a new job. I'm looking for another one," And and so and don't get me wrong, like I can't think of anyone that I truly am friends with and hold in high regard that is lazy or anything like that. But and I certainly know from my international education job, what it's like to be working more often than you're not working. And even the two job shift I have now, I get it. Don't get me wrong. But to me, there's always kind of been, you've always seemed very driven and very kind of goal oriented. And where I think I can't relate is, I don't know if I've ever been terribly goal oriented. I think I've been more just like, let me work hard on what's in front of me and see what happens. You seem to have always, not, it's never always, but you seem to always have, more often than not, had kind of a vision in mind of what you wanted to achieve. I kind of wanted to talk to you. Let me get your perspective on like where you kind of pull that from as a person, because I think that makes you terribly unique. I really do.
Well, I appreciate it. There's a lot of kind words. I'm glad you think so. And to the 2 points you brought up, kind of combine them. One, the first point, talking about family, you will know, I come from a pretty large family. And I have an older half sister who didn't live with us for most of my upbringing, though she's still very close. So I was the pseudo oldest of the other four. There was, 5 of us total. So I think I always felt like an innate sense of responsibility and tried to set a good example in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I think I had a lot of good upbringing, and parents were very just like driven and hungry, and just like it was instilled in us. And something like, I don't know if it's a mix of like ADD and just like always trying to get to the next level. I think it kind of needs some short-term memory, and really just, I don't know, just always thinking about the next thing. Like you said, I get had us, our 20s coming out of school, we're in our early 30s now. The last decade, it was like every year, like, what's the next thing to do? What's the next thing to do? And it's really starting to snowball, I feel like, too, even now. But really, I think it's just, like I said, upbringing was the start of it. And now, you know what, I think I always have like a short-term and a long-term plan. So my short-term plan is like, what am I going to do tomorrow and the next day and this year to kind of get me to where I want to be next year, and then string that along in a series of short-term plans of how do I want to end up in 30 years. So I do sort of have like a long-term plan in mind. It's not steadfast by any means, but I have an idea that kind of like guides me along. I just kind of reverse engineer everything back to it. So yeah.
Right on, man. Well, cool. No, I appreciate it, man. I think I don't think my honest perspective is like, by now I think we've all caught up to being as goal oriented as you've always been. But certainly growing up, in the time we did and doing the stuff we did, it was always something that kind of set you apart. So, I certainly appreciate that. I appreciate you talking me through it. So you brought up your family, and I've been blessed enough to be a part of a couple of those really special moments with your family. I see your family, and I consider them, my family as well in their own way. Just this past Christmas, I took a walk up to
That's great.
I took a walk to his parents' house because we live relatively right up the road, and my sister and I were going to check out an inflatable elephant with Santa on top of it. And by the time that we got there, I said to Noel, I was just like, yeah, the Taylors are like 5 houses away. You want to go say hello? She's like, I guess. And so we go, we go to the Taylors, and they're of course lovely. And of course they're like, hey Tom, Merry Christmas. I'm like, Merry Christmas. Have you seen the elephant? You know? And so what's really cool about the Taylors and pretty much everyone in my life is they're really very patient with my, very childlike tangents, and
It's a fun field trip.
yeah, it was. Man. I didn't pack a lunch, but I packed a germ. All right, no.
Oh my goodness.
We could end the show.
Oh, it's kid.
It was great talking to you, man. Okay, man. Whew. I'm sorry. I was that. But no, your family's great, and I certainly treasure them as well. One of, or the first series of memories I remember having with your family, a lot of those memories took place at your Hamptons house. I know this is a big old snowball of things to throw at you, but can you kind of take me through kind of your feelings on that place? I know we had some very special kind of memories there. Specifically, what comes to mind are a couple of the 4th of July kind of barbecues. Were you in the boat?
Yeah.
Were you in the boat where they tried to row and you weren't? Okay. Partially that was part of my intent to kind of get the thought process on that boat, but thankfully
the one that got like stuck in the middle of the bay. Is this? Or
yeah, they ran out of steam with their arms.
Fortunately, I wasn't on board of that vessel at that time, but they get a good view of it.
Oh, dude, we sure did, man. What a special time. Oh, dude. By all means, man. I mean, I know it's kind of a snowball of a question, but like any general thoughts or any specific memories kind of pop out for you? Because I want to see, I have a couple here on this list, and I'm wondering if maybe a couple of them kind of match up a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, just general thoughts. I mean, it was that house. I have so many mixed emotions about it. So we're fortunate, like, to have a little house on the water out, maybe like 45 minutes away from where we grew up, in Hampton Bays, and my parents would always have like a 4th of July party out there. When I was younger, I didn't really appreciate it, and then when we grew older and we were in our teens and college years, and just shortly after, like we were out there more, and all our friends were out there, and we really got to enjoy it and appreciate it. A lot of cool memories, and it was a cool place to just kind of hang out and like get out of town for a couple days. So yeah, I mean, I wish it was still around. I think we would appreciate it even more now, but yeah, those are good times.
I'm relieved you weren't on that boat. I feel really bad. I want to say half the reason I brought it up is because like that's a cool place. You know what I'm saying? But like the other half of the reason was like that's a cool segue into like what it was like on the open boat where they just ran a bunch of friends, and it's clear that I don't remember who well enough. But they tried to row on out to an island off in the distance, or a little isthmus, maybe island's too strong of a word. And they ran out of gas, kind of rowing, like out of metaphorical gas. And Sean's dad had to go in his motorboat and pick them up and like tow.
The whole party stopped.
Dude, it was because you know what it was well, you were there, dude. You don't need me to tell you, but like it was like a 20-minute period because you never know if they're really out of luck. You know what I'm saying? Like there were people checking it out. It's just like, are they stuck? And there were people just like, nah, they're fine. You know what I'm saying? Like
they haven't been moving for 25 minutes now, and maybe they're just taking the sights. I don't know.
It's a very cool part of the water to be at.
And it was at the time where like no one had like, I mean, maybe people had some cell phones, but we were all what, 19, 20, even 21. I don't even know if they're that old. So no one really had like anything, you have like an old Nokia, but if you're going in the water, you're never bringing it with you. So like,
Exactly.
if you run out of gas, you're screwed. So
Man. Plus, man, they were probably too out of breath to give us a call, you know.
I gotta ask him. I haven't talked to him in a few weeks, longer than that. But Alex, I want to say I feel like Alex Long was on that boat.
I was gonna say the only one where I put money is on that boat is Greedy. I do think Greedy was on that boat. I don't know if that's the Alex you meant, but that's the Alex that I had.
I was thinking about Wong, but this is good. Someone knows.
Yeah.
I'll have to get to the bottom of that.
Do you know what else happened at that party? That very same party? I was checking out like the little water trampoline that y'all had, and Greedy untied the water trampoline. And he like sent me a drift. And I'm just like, and he's laughing, and I get that it's funny. And I remember I said to him, I was like, I didn't think you were capable of this, man. And I said it just like that, because I'm standing there on the trampoline like a horse's ass, you know. And,
oh, you were on it?
Oh yeah, I was on it. He was setting me adrift. He was gonna have Mr. Taylor take his motorboat out twice to come get me on the damn trampoline, you know. And I said to him, I was like, I didn't think you were capable of this, man. And he literally said, I'm paraphrasing, but he was literally like, damn, if you put it like that, and he starts like pulling me back in, you know. And I was like,
do me dirty like that, yeah.
Yeah. One of my other favorite memories, and I'll start this story a little bit rather than just put you on the spot, was when we headed to Tribeca to celebrate your mom's birthday.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. It's coming to him. Okay. So the start of that day, this was the most surreal trip I've ever taken in my life. Jason Kaplan was kind enough to drive me from Miller Place. I think I had to go to Quorum to meet him, but bottom line, like from our area, right? And
sure.
We're driving to Massapequa to come pick you up, which is where you were working at the time. The weather for this journey is absolutely insane. Just almost literal cats and dogs. You know, man, you hear meow, you hear woof, in addition to like the water pellets hitting the car, okay? And Jay was using his mom's car, and one of the windshield wipers didn't work.
Oh, of course.
And this was not a drizzle. This was not a rain. This was like I can't believe I got caught out in this. And further, this was us following a GPS because we're young and ignorant, and like, unless like the exit sign says Massapequa, like we don't know where the hell we're going. So we're taking this trip. The windshield wiper keeps going awry to the point where I think a couple of times like Jay is like trying to reach out while he's driving, because unfortunately it's on his side, and do like try to bring it back to life, you know. And we reach a point where we're just almost slap happy about the deal. I remember Jay and I singing "Don't Worry, Be Happy" while one windshield wiper's going, and we're like hydroplaning to get to Massapequa, and we don't know where it's at. And to be honest, man, like in hindsight, it was just like, wow, that was pretty dangerous. But like, what else?
That was super dangerous.
Yeah. Oh no, it was awful.
You gotta get there.
But we're just young and stupid, and we think we're invincible, you know. And so the weather finally slows a little bit, to be fair, but it's still raining. And we get to Massapequa, and we get to right around where your office is, and you're trying to tell us like that. Obviously, this is totally false, but like you're saying like, yeah, it's 6:20, and we're just like, we can't see 6:20, man. Like we don't know what that is. Like you need to help us and things like that. And you're trying to like point out like landmarks of this, that, and the other thing. And I just remember like Jay and I felt like we were lucky to be alive as it is. And then lo and behold, we're like going up and down this road when the weather is still awful, you know? And
Sunrise Highway.
Yeah. But it was we were seeing like the office like we were on some residential equivalent, but it was still like a quick moving road. And I remember like that's where frustration started to set in. Like we were starting to crack a little bit, and we're just like, I don't know where he is. Like, and I'm like, I think in fairness, like I'm saying to Jay, just like, yo, like pick a gas station and tell him to find us, man. Like, I don't, like no, dude. Like it was that legit, man. It really was. And then eventually we found you, and we made our way to Tribeca to celebrate your mom's birthday, which was a tremendous occasion. It was a surprise. She was surprised. It was lovely. And Jay and I had just finished, or were in the middle of, a bartending course. So that party had an open bar. And so literally all Jay and I did was ask for all the stuff that we've been making like fake versions of. So like literally we were going through like mentally the little like bartending book we had, and we were just like, this poor bartender, was like getting to like the real like runaround because we never asked for the same thing twice, and we're just like, we'll have a gimlet, a legendary lemonade, please. And
Collins, please. Yeah.
Indeed, man. Yeah, we were doing it. And I mean, we were tipping because we knew, because now we were taking the course. So we understood that, like, the stuff's not that easy,
You
but
appreciate
I
the
just
struggle.
remember that every time we went up, like this poor bartender, who was really congenial, but I mean, that's what bartenders are meant to do. But I'm sure, like, secretly, the guy was just like, oh no, like, what's it gonna be now? Can I interest you in a beer?
Yes. Nice cold one. Mountains activate.
So, and fortunately for me, I can't speak for Jason, but like, I'll be the first to confess that night I was drinking like a fish, but I also danced so hard that like, I just sweated right the hell out. But so, I mean, and that's pretty much me. That's why I still get invited to weddings. But I want to stay here because I do have, maybe a couple of stories about that night specifically. But like, as much as I'm sure in like the deep lineage of your family, as weird as that word choice is, like as much as I'm sure it's just like a drop in the well, like why don't you take me through like kind of what that night meant to you, kind of making that trip with us, and any memories of that night for yourself?
So this was my mother's 50th birthday. So it was a big number, one of those symbolic numbers that people tend to celebrate a little harder or with a little more fanfare than your normal birthday. And I know my dad was taking it seriously, and he really wanted to impress or really make sure my mom had a good time. So there was a lot of family there, a lot of extended family there, a lot of friends there. And we're all excited. Like we grew up on the outskirts of New York City, but it was like cool. Like everyone's been in New York City, and like we're kind of staying in a hotel. And it was before we've had these. I know the last few years we've had like a flurry of like weddings and trips and like bachelor parties and stuff like that. But it was at the time before anyone really experienced stuff like that. So it kind of had that feel like, oh, it's gonna be a big weekend. Like, yeah. So I know leading up to it, it was exciting getting all our friends together, having everyone like carpool in. Circumstances vary, but everyone made their one piece. And then so it is a cool build up to it.
Right on, man. Beautiful, beautiful night. What I will say is once we got to Massapequa and we found Sean drove from Massapequa to Tribeca. That said, just that drive in that Sean Taylor alluded to yielded one of the most unintentional memories I'll ever have. And that is Sean Taylor driving in Tribeca. Sean Taylor, to me as a driver, the city all feels the same. And that's the truth. And that means I'm capable of it. Like I've been through the Lincoln Tunnel, I've driven through Manhattan, like it's not like a paralyzing thing, but at the same time, like F&A, man, if I had my choice, I don't want to drive in the city, So I remember making this trip, and I remember a yellow light so very distinctly And Sean Taylor says, and you got to know him, but if you're watching this video this deep in, you do know him. When Sean Taylor says, hang on, it means hang on. You know, like, baby boy. It means like, hang on to your wallet, hang on to your hands, hang on to your knees, hang on to your glasses, hang on to your very soul. Okay? Sean Taylor says, hang on. And immediately, I perk up. Like, I'm like, what's up? You know? And Sean Taylor guns it in the city. And to me, it's all the same. But Tribeca sure as hell didn't seem small and quiet. Okay? Sean Taylor guns it through this yellow light. Makes it through. Jason Kaplan, as he's doing it, says, and I quote, because I'll never forget it, and we say it
no.
today, Sean Taylor was his name. He said, now, 31 years old, the benefit of hindsight, freaking hilarious, okay? But 21 years old, 22 years old, when there's a chance that that's the last thing that I'm going to hear in my life is Sean Taylor was his name, I was not a happy panda, man.
What do you want to hear for your last words? I mean, what's wrong with that?
Baby boy, like that was about to be on my tombstone. You know what I'm saying?
At least I was courteous and gave you guys a heads up.
Yeah, yeah, indeed, man. Oh Lord, I'll never forget it. And if I'm being honest with you, man, now I cherish it because I don't think 2 visits with Jay go by without that coming up, which probably tells you all you need to know about one, Jay's in my relationship, but also about Sean Taylor, you know. I say it very often, and I'm not saying this just because he's here. Sean Taylor is very much the glue that holds the group together, as much as he almost killed us in that particular moment. But nah, man. I remember.
I'll say this.
What's up?
Pardon. Yeah. In some ways, when I think hard back on those years in particular, those like 21 through 25 years, surprised a lot of us are still here. I feel like there's a lot of accidents. I meant to circle back to earlier, like a lot of clumsiness, a lot of maybe poor decision making, put it that way. A lot of stuff in between. But we all made it through. Have some stories to tell. Yeah, I'm glad you think back of it fondly now.
And the next day,
I don't know.
You gave me a ride to Jamaica Station, and I was sitting on this. And this I respect. This I love. I was sitting on a stack of encyclopedias. Like I wasn't actually sitting on the seat of your car. Yeah, look at that. You remember?
Well, you know what? Because this was I think this is my first car. It's an old blue Ford Explorer, and I was just like a hoarder for my car. So the trunk and like it was packed with like like you said, I don't know why. I had like a stack of encyclopedias back there. I never even read them. I don't know where I got them from.
I literally said to you, and I was joking, but I was like, "Can I take W for the train ride home?" You know.
Walrus, Waterloo, just like, yeah.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. I would like to believe that, like, by the time I got home, I would have made it to, like, Wampum or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Let me see your shit. No, all right. Oh, boy. Shoot. What I also will never forget about that night, and this is where, man, I feel like I've done this is the truth, man. I've kind of lost count, but I've done about 10 or 12 of these, which is freaking awesome. But I feel like I've had about 3 or 4 stories where it's just like, and this is the alcohol talking. And like when it comes out of your own mouth, I'm just like, oh, damn it. You know, like there are a lot of stories that kind of wind up with that. But I also will never forget. I met your who I believe to be your uncle, and I'm so sorry that I can't forget his name. I can't remember his name. But the gentleman who is happily married, but they don't have kids. Who is that?
So I actually have two uncles like that. But let's just say Uncle Jay. Let's put it
Okay.
that. Well, I will turn around. Yeah, Uncle Jay. As the letter J.
I spent a lot of that night when I wasn't, just hanging out with obviously my buds. I still have a photo from that night hanging up on my fridge. I do. But when I wasn't hanging out with my friends, I spent a lot of that night. My friends are beautiful and they're lovely, but they're not going to dance with me. A lot of that night was spent dancing with that particular uncle and his wife. And it was awesome because we're all, just like talking to each other, grooving, and just like getting to know each other, getting a drink every now and again. Like it was really like the most pleasant third wheel situation ever. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, those are the people to hang out with on a night like that.
Exactly. And my point is, like, I was having a blast. I was having a ball. It was so fun. They were so cool. And I just remember though, like, I kind of lost my bearings a little bit because I was asking Sean at the time because I was having a blast. I was just like, hey, like, who's that? And Sean was telling me, and I'm gonna misremember part of this. I really am. So take it with a grain of salt. But he's just like, yeah, that's my uncle and his wife. They don't have kids, but they travel the world and they just have a great time and they just kind of enjoy each other, and that was the crux of what Sean said. And to me, that resonates because that's kind of how I feel. I'm not anti-monogamy and I'm certainly not anti-relationship. Like, I would welcome those in their own way. But kids are not something I want. And I was saying to Sean, and this is the alcohol talking, I was like, that's the way to do it, just because I agreed, and I do agree. But I also remember seeing Mr. Taylor at like the end of the night, Sean's father at the end of the night, and he's asking us how we enjoyed it, and we're all talking to him. It's not like he set me aside or anything like that. And I'm telling him like, yeah, I met Uncle, what's his name? Jay, was it?
Well, it's Uncle Jimmy.
Oh, Jimmy. Okay.
Super tall, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I met Uncle Jimmy and his wife, and man, we had a blast. And Mr. Taylor's like, oh, that's great, Tom. I'm so happy to hear that. Like, Mr. Taylor, as always, is a class act, and I just remember saying like, yeah, man, they're doing it right. You know what I'm saying? And I just remember like, I'm at like Mrs. Taylor's 50th birthday party, and like I'm there because I'm friends with their whole family, and I'm just like, yeah, man, like I wouldn't have kids at all. And I just remember like I don't think I was rude or out of line, but I just remember like there was no tact in what I was saying. And I remember the next day being like, you know what, that probably wasn't the wisest thing in the world to say to like someone who's a happily family man, you know what I'm saying? But really, a special time in its own way. I did talk to your father about that the next time I saw him, but he said he didn't even think about it twice. So it couldn't have been that bad.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. And like, yeah, I know. I feel like even just now at this age and this like stage of life, it's like, I know we have a pretty good group of friends. Like everyone's still pretty close, and there's a bunch of us, and no one has really had kids yet that I know of. Yeah, it's like, that's gonna be a weird change if and when people do have kids. I know, embracing.
You know what, man? For me though, and I say this with all affection in the world, I went to college in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania time is a lot quicker than New York time. They get to that stuff quicker. It's just simple. I have to say I love it because I get to send him all the Sesame Street stuff that
Oh yeah.
I would read anyway. I absolutely love it, and like everybody knows that. That's no secret. But like, I will literally read something and see something Sesame Street that I wouldn't buy for myself, obviously, but I would be like, oh, like which of my friends' kids would like this, and then just mail it to them. I mean, that's what it's all about. So that's what my New York friends have to look forward to. If they like Disney, they're out of luck. But Sesame Street wise, I definitely got them covered by all means. Sean, I'm gonna bring up a time you had my back. Might do it in kind of a roundabout way, but I'm going to bring up a time that I'm very grateful for you because Sean had my back and I didn't even realize he had my back. And that was one particular Halloween night in Astoria. Great many Astoria evenings with Sean Taylor. I've seen him ride a mechanical horse.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry.
Give me it. No.
So, okay. So there's a picture that circulated. You're in it. It's me and you.
Yes.
I'm on a mechanical horse. I think I'm on 31st Ave, like right under the Amtrak
Right
bridge.
on the train. Yep. I see it every time I go to a story. I see it.
And there's just some random, like, he almost looks like an older Greek gentleman or Mediterranean.
He looks fresh out of The Sopranos. Yeah.
He's a Greek or Italian, and he's in the picture, and he's just giving like a blank stare to the camera. I'm going like this. Tom's giving a smile and like kind of like leaning over, and there's just this random guy in the picture. I don't know if I've told you this. So this was before I moved into the neighborhood. So maybe this was like 7-8 years ago. I've been in the neighborhood for like two and a half years now. I was on a subway platform maybe last summer, and I swear to God, I see this guy right across the track from me. The same guy. And it's like such a distinct face. Like there can't be, it's not a doppelganger. Like it doesn't kind of look like, it's like, that's the guy.
Wow.
I swear.
That's insane. That's when you pull up the photo and just be like, what's up, man?
I know you. You don't remember me, but I know you.
How you been, dude? Man. What a trip, man. I mean,
I apologize for interrupting.
But yeah. Ride on a mechanical horse, and it's something I'll never forget. That's a treasured photo. He's got these horns up, and he brought these horns up when we were out in the Hamptons. Baby boy, that's one of my favorite Hamptons memories. Shoot. I have to say, all right, we'll bring it up. All right. Sean Taylor dancing. Where he was at, and I've been there many times before. All he was there for was throwing these up, and this was literally all Sean was doing. It was a night for Sean. And
it was like I thought I was at a rock concert, but it was totally wrong venue, and I was doing it wrong. Instead of going like, it was like in your face.
I just remember there was one distinct point where literally I'm standing there, and Sean is literally going like this to my face, and I'm just like, all right, dude, like you all right, you know? Yeah, man, very, very, very special times indeed. But one, that night ended with everybody but Sean going to bed, and then at like 3:30 a.m., Sean Taylor grilling hot dogs and asking anybody if they wanted them. And literally, in a chorus of people saying, like, nah, man, like, we don't want hot dogs, like, go to bed, you know? And he literally says, last call for hot dogs. And that's another t-shirt that I kind of want, if I'm being honest, man. I think last call for hot dogs is as etched in my brain as Sean Taylor was his name.
Make sure my friends are fed.
You bet. No, and that's the thing, man. Even at a moment where he's not quite cognizant, he's very cognizant of how his friends are feeling. And that should tell you all you need to know about Sean Taylor's character. Forgive me while I crack open a second one. Oh, man.
Oh man, I could use a hot dog right now. I'm kind of hungry.
No doubt, man. If I lived a little closer, man, I would do my best to return the favor and hook you up, by all means. But anyway, we go back to Astoria. We go back to a Halloween evening where I understand you had my back. That particular Halloween evening, I remember that one pretty distinctly. I remember for a few reasons. I was dressed as a cowboy with just a giant cowboy hat. So I have affinity for large hats. For some reason, that really makes me laugh. It really does. Like, I wish there was something deeper to the story than that, but like, it's a really like third grade kind of like, you know?
Hat. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, dude. And so basically, I was just a cowboy with an excuse to wear the large foam cowboy hat, and Greedy happened to be a cow.
This Halloween.
One of my favorite photos of all time, I have this one actually framed, is us unintentionally wearing similar costumes, I guess related costumes. And there's a shot of me milking him from the udders from the costume.
He was a full cow, like udders, ears, head to toe. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it was beautiful. Like I said, I have that one framed. That's how I regard it. You were dressed. Jay had that fetus thing on his head. I don't have much to add to that, but it was a freaking weird thing. And you were dressed as a dog. All right. Yeah, exactly that. I could be in your tree. No.
Had the ears and the tail, brown sweater. What else? There's a couple other little accessories to it, but yeah.
Well, I can tell you what you didn't leave with, and that's your jacket, my friend.
Vacuum?
Your jacket.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, baby. All right. It's in. So, we go into this one particular bar, and
13th step.
it might have been that. Oh God. Okay. We can.
The one I remember going to that night.
Yeah, we took. Is 13th step in the story? No.
No, it's maybe I'm thinking of it. I'm combining evenings. No, it's in Manhattan.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a rough. Just in the interest of calling a spade, I had a rough night at a SantaCon where we wound up at 13th step, and Sean Taylor helped me out with that. Yeah, that was a night. Although he also said, like, Tom, wait out here and we'll be back in a little while. And somebody had to say, like, no, man, like, we're not going to do that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I've been to SantaCon twice. One didn't go to that. But actually, the one that didn't go the best probably didn't go as bad as your mind probably jumps to, but it didn't go great. But anyway, we go into this Astoria bar, and I'm dressed as a cowboy with my large foam cowboy hat. And apparently, I don't really register this, but I also I genuinely don't think like alcohol is a factor. I just think like the guy was trying to be like a sneak about it. There's this other like cowboy guy that's there, and apparently he didn't appreciate that I came in, and I was talking to certain people. It was what it was. But anyway, I think this guy was pointing his fake guns, which is bizarre that they would let in, but like pointing these fake guns at me and like pretending to like shoot me. And I only knew this because Greeby told me about it later that night. Like I said, this is not, and I've had plenty, Sean can tell you. This is not one of those I was impaired nights. This was just I was unaware. And Greeby apparently approached him and said like, hey man, like you can't be doing that. Like that's my buddy. And apparently the guy to Greeby was just like, yeah, whatever, like I don't care, forget you. But then what Greeby said to him from what I understand, it said like, "Hey, you see that dog over there?" And the guy looks over at you, and Greavy says like, the dog's with him too. So if you keep doing that, we're gonna sick him on you. And apparently, which makes Greavy the most badass guy in the room. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, like, it was the threat of you that diffused a very otherwise volatile situation.
I didn't even know.
There you go, dude. Now, what happened later that night is you wound up leaving without your jacket, and man, how did that go? Why don't you tell me your perspective on it? Let's just jump right into that.
Well, to be quite honest, that part of the evening I don't really recall. Oh, yes. Okay, it's coming back. So I had this leather jacket, the hood, if I recall. Yeah, and I was really digging it. Thought I was kind of a badass.
You bet. And I'll bet
and I got it on sale at Marshall's. Like, it was a good deal, and I hate giving up a good deal. As you know, we can get into other stories about coupons and things like that. So
it's fucking coming. The last thing I'm gonna bring up.
I'm expecting it. A little birdie gave me a heads up on that one, and I knew so. But that was a good one, and that one I appreciate. But as far as this Halloween story, so it was a jacket. You know, this is October 31st, November 1st at this point. This, you know, we're in Queens, New York. It's cold, windy, and left my jacket at the place where there's a shootout with the Cowboys. And,
right.
Yeah, I mean, I must have just left it there. We left, or I don't know what happened to her. I ended up losing the jacket. I think I know the place where it is now. But we ended up coming back.
Like 8 years later, let's go pick it up. Yeah.
Well, we went back the next morning, like all of us.
And that's more. I'm not expecting you to recount the evening. Believe me, I'm not. But that next morning was a surreal kind of time, and that's more what I want to hear about. But I don't want to hijack the story, man. Like I want.
So it was a rough night for me, as I recall. It's probably why I lost the jacket. And then I guess we all go back to, I'm assuming, Ben's place. I think he was the only one living in town, or maybe.
That might have been the night he was wearing a double-breasted jacket.
Was that the same night? It could have been. There's too many stories to go around.
I'll never forget that conversation either. But yes.
I thought it was so, like, I don't know. I thought I was saying something very profound about our friend and previous guest Ben's attire. But yeah, to stay on track. So yeah, I must have woke up, searching everywhere for my jacket. My keys were in there, I believe. So not only is it just a jacket, but it's like, all right. Here, car keys.
On the chase because you couldn't find your keys and your car was there.
Yeah, so we all pile into, it was like one of Ben's old like Camrys or something, like a very small car, and it's you, me, Alex, Jason, and Ben, and maybe Jake too. So there's a whole group of us. We're going to every place we were at the night before, backtracking, going over all our steps. We finally get to the place where I think we thought it wasn't there. And I'm in such rough shape that I'm like hanging out in the back seat, the bench seat, just like curled up in a ball. Just I'm very utter sick, and yeah, it was a typical 22, 23-year-old like Halloween night. Ended up not so great. The next part I might need your help. The next part I think I might need your help for, because you guys all like outside of the car well, we were outside. We were right outside of the bar, and I was in the back seat.
Yeah.
You guys were outside, like on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
How did it go from there?
Man, oh man. Okay. It's good to see where your head's at. It's good to see. It's good to see how perspectives kind of change because it's lovely, but it's also somewhat alarming. We are recounting steps, just like Sean is saying.
Yes.
And you know what, man? Like you can focus on the negatives if you want, but like Sean Taylor was in rough shape and still like leading us to like where he thought his jacket was. And I'm not even saying this for his benefit. Like there were moments where like Sean was like white as a ghost and like had to stop and just like sit down on the sidewalk, like against buildings, and just still stay positive because he has to stay positive because we're looking for his stuff, to be fair. Like he has nothing, with all due respect, like he has nothing to complain about. But at the same time, it's one of these things where like you could tell Sean feels really bad, you know, and at the same time, he's trying to also motivate to like continue us on this path to find his jacket. To be honest, one of the most compelling dichotomies I've ever encountered. And I wish I realized how unique that was when I was experiencing it. Because I didn't. Because you're young and you think like all these emotions are going to kind of repeat themselves. And some things don't, you know. Fucking A. Not to get wax poetic about it. Some things don't. And anyway, while we're on this trip, and we're not driving to start. Sean's correct that we're all in a car at some point. Let's be clear. But we're not driving to start. We're just kind of retracing our steps. And the frequent walking is part of what's draining. I'm sure everybody, but Sean more than most. Like I said, I could talk about the Santa Con at 13th step, and I'd be having a rough day. But Sean's having a rough time. We get a call while we're in the middle of that. And Ben Crouch has a flat tire. So in the middle of all that, that's why we go meet Deanna and Ben, because suddenly they have a flat tire. And I don't want to put words in his mouth. I could be misremembering a little bit, but I don't think, I could really be wrong. Take this statement with a grain of salt, please, please. If Ben says, yeah, I did, take Ben's word for it. But I'm not of the impression that Ben knew how to change his tire. And I feel like that's why he asked everybody there. But if Ben says, yeah, I did, Tom's a liar, Tom's a liar.
No. I think you're right. Now that you say it, I can recall it.
And so we all went to, and rest assured, man, I couldn't tell you 3 things about tires, about cars. But one of the few things I can do, I swear to God, I can change a tire. I do. But that doesn't make me an expert on anything. I know how to fuel it up. I know that you don't put water in the antifreeze tank while the engine is still hot. Sure. And I also know how to change the tire. Those are pretty much the things I know about. I know about cars. Like everything else, I'm a dunce, you know. I really am. But that's why we all wind up at Ben's car, because we take a walk to help him change tire. And while we're changing the tire together, and we're like 6 deep at this point, which is 5 people too many, but we're 6 deep. Sean Taylor is in the back seat of the car, just like he described. And I will throw him under the bus for this. He's wearing Deanna's Edie Sedgwick wig at the time.
That was a good idea.
And I remember Jay saying, and I'll say this all day because it was freaking so obscure. He just says, like, I'm about to 5-star frog splash him. And I'm just like, what is it? That is something, that is a threat I've never heard levied on anyone, you know?
He doesn't get angry too often. Not that I've seen off, you know.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, man. I've seen him angry once, but I don't really know what he was angry about. Um, the only other time I've seen him angry is when you and he were in the mall together. But again, that's the story that we're ending with. So we're not going to get to that right now, baby boy. Tell me, usually every single one of these stories that I've told on this program, and I use that term loosely, has been something where I was there. This is a story where I wasn't there, but I remember when you told it, being really quite smitten with the story. So I'd love for you to just tell me a story, and I wasn't there, I don't know anything about it. Can you tell me the story about you at the time, and for all I know you still do, own some property in Port Jack, and you were like loosely staking something out, and you were approached by a resident as though you were trying to do something shifty. Does that resonate with you at all?
So let me just clarify. It's about a resident thinking I was doing something shifty?
Yeah, my understanding, and I might be misremembering, is you or someone in the neighborhood had some tools stolen.
Yes.
And so you were trying to like stake out to see who that might be.
Yes.
And apparently to this other innocent, to be clear, to this other resident, you looked suspicious because you were just sitting in your car all night looking for this dude. And that guy approached you aggressively and you had an exchange. Yep. Can you tell me about that story? I remember quite liking that story when you told it.
Oh yeah, okay. So this is in 2012 and 2013. So there was a section of Port Jefferson Station, a couple towns over from where we grew up, which is the last line of Port Jefferson Railroad, or Long Island Railroad in Port Jefferson. It's the last line on the Port Jefferson line, excuse me. And there was this pocket of the neighborhood that had a lot of abandoned homes, and there's some homeless folks that lived in some of those homes. And anyway, I ended up purchasing one of them, and it was abandoned and it was totally gutted, so it needed a bunch of work to get done to it. So we're in the process of doing construction on it, and I had there were no windows, it was just all boards. So I would go in there after work and I would do some work and then come home and leave some of the bigger tools in there, the more expensive tools. And I remember coming back one morning and someone ripped the boards off, and it looked like there was an attempt to steal everything. I, didn't have any money at the time. Any money I did have, I put it all into this house. And yeah, so I found all the tools gone when I get into the house. Then I ended up finding them in the backyard, kind of like behind a bush. Like someone was coming back for them later. Like it was too much for them to take on their own. Yeah. And I was just so infuriated. Someone's robbing me. I've never been robbed before.
Hell yeah.
And it's stuff I couldn't afford to lose. I'm in the process of trying, I'm paying for this house, and no one can occupy it right now. So I don't know. I was younger, and just it was very emotional.
But by all means, you can't.
Oh yeah. And I filed a police report, but there's only so much those folks can do. So I ended up kind of staking the place out at night because people were breaking into it. And it wasn't the first time. I think I found it another time, maybe a couple weeks earlier. Someone broke into it and must have stayed the night up there. So I went up to the second floor and there was carpeting, and someone must have was smoking in the house and was putting cigarettes out on the carpet that night. And I was there every single day, so I knew someone was in and someone. So when the tools were taken, must have been I can't remember if it was the first or second time, but it was enough where I was freaking out that I was I don't care if I don't sleep. I'm just going to stake out of this house and make sure no one goes in there, and then I'll go to work the next day.
Yeah.
So I ended up, like I said, there was a lot of ordered up homes on the block. So, and the residents that were longtime residents there probably weren't too fond of that. People coming in and out of abandoned homes, doing God knows what. Frankly, I found used needles in the house when I bought it. People were doing things that, they shouldn't have been doing in there. So I'm sitting in my car. I don't know what time of night it was, maybe 11, close to midnight. And one of the residents, for a few houses down, sees that someone's sitting on the side of the road next to their house. It's been sitting there for a while. And what is he doing? Like, I don't recognize his car. Is he trying to rob my house? Is he trying to rob one of the other houses that have been robbed dozens so times over the last few years? So he comes up to the driver's side window and knocks on my door aggressively and very upset and distraught and really, like, you can tell, just like upset, his face, like upset and anger, a good mix of both. And I get out of the car and we start talking, and I'm just trying to, like, understand why he's coming up to me. And then he very, to the extent he was upset, he rationally explained, like, I have 2 young daughters in my home, and you're someone who I don't recognize, and I'm, what are you doing here? And the whole story is, I ended up explaining to him exactly what happened. I'm a new homeowner in the neighborhood. Someone broke into my house and tried to rob me, and I'm on the same page as you. Like, I'm trying to help, like, turn this neighborhood around. Like, it's a nice neighborhood. It could be a lot better than what it is. And it just ended up working out. And then we ended up forming, like, a friendship and kind of, like, I said, you live a couple houses down. If you happen to see someone there, can you call me? And, if I see anything with you guys, I'll be happy to give you a heads up to you. So it ended up working out for the best, and made an acquaintance out of it. And those are, it's an interesting time.
Yeah.
And if you go to that neighborhood now, I mean, it's much nicer.
Definitely. Yep.
People work from home there. Families live in there. I mean, it's cool to be part of. I mean, I still have that house. I mean, I have tenants living there. Both have their own families, and it's nice. It's something to be cool to be. It's cool to be part of.
Right on, man. Shoot. One, I love that story. I think it was always kind of a cliffhanger, the amount of I remember the first time I heard it being engrossed. We'll be as simple as that, man. I do quite like that story, and I like kind of the friendship that resulted of that. And I think I don't want to be poetic and think that it's indicative of anything, but I think it's pretty cool how you come out the other side and see the light on that, a story like that. Not the deepest thing I've ever said, but I've always liked that story. I really have. I appreciate you telling it. Now, Sean, I want to say again, I appreciate your time here today, 1,000,000%. I have one story that I want to leave us with, but at the same time, I know my perspective like the back of my hand. What I want is kind of your perspective, because in a matter of speaking, it's the only perspective that matters. And to do that, I'm going to take us back to a very special New Year's Eve. I don't remember the year. I wish I did. But it was a time where you were trying to return a suit to the mall there. This is unequivocally, it sounds boring. I just gave it the intro, and people are probably rolling their eyes like, how is that interesting? But I assure you, it is the most profound experience I've ever had with Sean Taylor. Why don't you take me through kind of that evening, which I stress again is New Year's Eve, as we're headed towards Astoria and then the city to celebrate.
So, December 31st, it was, we're all geared up to go into the city to meet up with the rest of the crew up in Astoria. There was a bunch of holidays, Halloweens, New Year's, and stuff that we all, as a group, kind of celebrated together over those years. And I was driving in. It was me, Tom, and Jason.
And
Lenny was there too.
Lenny and Long.
Well, yeah, Alex, because we picked up. Did we all leave Miller Place together? Or did we pick anyone up on the way?
I don't know if I remember all that. All I know is in the mall, Me, Wong, Lenny, and Jay. And
Lenny, I almost forget Lenny because he was like the coolest customer out of everybody.
he was the only one who was here for it, man. Rest assured. But by all means, take it from there.
So, so I'm driving in, and you know, if anyone knows the trip from Miller Place to Astoria, it's like an hour and a half, and we're leaving in, you know, in the middle of the afternoon, maybe later on in the afternoon. So it's, you know, kind of rush hour. It's going to take a little bit longer to get there. We had a time that we need to be there. I don't know, if it's like 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever the time is. We got to be somewhere because everyone's meeting up so we can go out, that sort of thing. So there is an element of time sensitivity that, you know, which if anyone knows me, I'm not always the most punctual person. You know, I happen to be late from time to time. There are plenty of stories with punctuality, something about 7-Elevens, and I think this is one you weren't a part of, but
yeah, you got you got taquitos on you. I get it, bro.
How many Kraus is listening to this? They know full well. Oh, that was a wedding.
Where the FRU?
So anyway,
I'm there, man. We've been friends for a lot of years, dude. I'm here, but by all means.
So anyway, we're in my car, and I tell everyone who's in the car, the 4 other folks, I need to make a pit stop on the way. You know, it's quick. It's on the way. There's a mall in Nassau County right off the expressway. I went to Hofstra University. I know the area well. Be in and out. You know, 10 minutes out of our way. No big deal. So we're going to Macy's. We go to Macy's, Roosevelt Field Mall. I had a coupon, the aforementioned coupons. I can't remember if it was like 50% off or $50 off. It's like pretty good savings. And at the time, we're all, you know, 23, 24, like good amount of chunk of change.
If you have an excuse to look nice, if you have it, man, any chance you have to look nicer than you were looking before, back in those days, you had to pounce on it, bro. I get it.
And I was at the phase of my life where, like, I thought, like, I want to be, you know, successful. Like, I need to have, like, a wardrobe of suits. Like, I can get a cheap suit. So, but it expired December 31st. That's critical. So, you know, good deal. We'll stop. We'll hop in Macy's. We'll get, you know, we'll get the suit. I already know my size, that sort of thing. You know, we're not really too tight on time. Yeah. So maybe traffic was a little heavier than I anticipated when we were coming in. We ended up getting to Roosevelt Field Mall. You know, it's a really big mall and takes like half an hour just to drive the perimeter of. Exaggeration a little bit, but finally getting to Macy's, maybe running a little shorter in time at this point, but we're still in good shape. And then I'm going around trying to find, you know, exactly what I need, and nothing really is meeting the criteria that's needed for the type of suit to get the discount. It was one of those sorts of things. And I hate clothes shopping. I hate it. I dread it with passion. It always gives me anxiety. I'm just like, nothing ever fits right. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that.
Right.
But so it's taking me a little longer than I anticipated to kind of find the right clothes. And you guys are being good sports for the most part, and like everyone's in the mall and Macy's with us, and patiently waiting. And I ended up getting to the counter, and I just remember waiting online for, it felt like half an hour. I don't know why. There was like, must have been like an after Christmas, like, and we're trying to make returns and everything, and it's just like, it's a madhouse in there.
You know what it was? And I'm going to throw it right back to you, but it helps the context of the story. This Macy's ordinarily would have like 5 checkout counters, but because it was New Year's Eve and it was getting closer to midnight, they literally had 1. The whole store was behind Sean Taylor. So was it a madhouse? Yes. But it was only a madhouse because there was one door to that house instead of 5.
And I was determined to take advantage of the savings.
That much is apparent. Yes.
So yeah, I get to the front of the line at checkout, the one checkout, and like I said, the suit or whatever didn't meet the criteria to get this coupon, and I'm trying to have not an argument, but like trying to have a debate with the person at the counter.
That's why you're there. Yeah.
Why I'm there. Like, so I got 4 hours left to take advantage of these savings. And I feel like, I was at that counter for like 20, 30 minutes. And everyone's waiting on me. And and people aren't too happy. And I ended up not even getting the suit.
Did you not?
Dude, it sounds worse. So 1, I didn't get the suit. But 2, I was able to use that coupon for like a pair of like sneakers. I remember. Like royal blue.
I do remember you got shoes. I was about to say, I didn't know it was the same coupon, but you got colorful, gosh darn blue shoes. Baby boy, you look like Dory from Finding Nemo walking around. Just keep swimming. Baby boy.
Those are good shoes.
Those were great.
Almost worth it.
Yes. I didn't know the shoes were the same coupon. I'm so glad I brought this up.
Oh,
I had no clue. Dude, that's significant. That gives me such a sense of closure, man. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, but the rest of the car ride to Astoria was there were some not too happy campers, let's say.
It was, and I'll give you the breakdown right now. First of all, the only one who deserves a medal and the token for being a great friend is Lenny Furtado. Let's be very clear about that. Because you had the extremes of Sean Taylor in a tight spot, just because he was frustrated with not getting a save. You had that compounded by Sean Taylor in a tight spot because the whole store was cooling behind him while he tried to handle his business, which is not really his fault. But it does bear mentioning that genuinely there was a good, like, 12, 15 people behind him wondering why this wasn't being resolved. You had Alex Wong and myself pretty much laughing at the situation. I will go ahead and say that 80% of the exchange was like, we're not good friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, really not.
No, this guy.
Yeah, no, not even that necessarily. To be fair, not that. But more so, this is hilarious. No sympathy is what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? And that's me saying it about myself. So I don't mind kind of throwing myself under the bus. But here's what happened. What I will say about both Juan and myself is this guy started to get like really kind of abrasive. Like, I'm going to go say something to this guy. And I remember Alex and I both said to him, just like, look, this is hilarious, and I'm not saying that he's right, but like, we have his back. I'm just letting you know. I remember saying that very distinctly, and we were still very much laughing at you. Like, let's be clear. But at the same time, it was very much like, hey man, like, we're not saying he's right, but if you mess with him, you get us. And I will say that was kind of a cool moment because he backed down. And then I remember Jay was upset. He was. And it's not my story to tell. Ideally, he'll be on the show very soon, and I hope that he'll tell this story. I'll be sure to bring it up. But
I want to hear his version. I
would love that. Yeah, because I think Jay was as upset as the guy that was loosely threatening Sean. But anyway, man, witnessing that exchange, or lack of exchange, my lord.
You had one before, but that one I think you took the cake.
Oh Lord, can I tell you one of my memories, dude? Oh shoot,
Yeah.
This isn't where I wanted to end it. But I remember one night in Astoria, and I don't know any context, which is part of why I didn't bring it up. But I remember very distinctly, I went back to Deanna and Ben's early, or It might not have been Deanna and Ben. It might have been Ben and Jake living together. Forgive me. Yeah, Ben and Jake. It was that era. And I remember I was like sleeping, and then you woke me up by like saying something. And I don't remember what you said. Like, this is such a shitty story. I get that. But I remember like you said something like smart ass, and like you woke me up, and I like said something back, and you were just like, you literally said like, damn it, like even when he's half asleep, he just freaking roasts me. And I'll never forget it. And I don't know what you said, and I don't know what I said, but the only thing, I swear to God, the only thing that resonates is just, damn it. Like even when
damn it.
he freaking nailed it. Like anyway, man. Yes, I look forward to asking Jay's perspective on that. The lack of exchange was pronounced. But you did get some cool sneakers about it. I didn't know the sneakers were related.
I was not leaving there. I was not leaving out there without getting something. Wasted all that time. Invested that time.
And then, in fairness to Sean, here's the thing, man. And I'm being very honest when I say this. Nothing about this is facetious. Sean had a rough time. That was a rough time for Sean. And Lenny was the only guy who was chill about it. But it's not like anybody openly said, like, hey, what's the problem here? Let's help him out, you know? And Sean had a rough time because, quite frankly, it wasn't the end of the world. It wasn't. But he and Jay had some words after that. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't a big deal. But, like, for our group of friends, we're a pretty passive group of friends that always gets along. And Sean and Jay were definitely not the best of friends in that moment. And that's all I can say. And I remember Sean had that moment. And we drove from the Roosevelt Field Mall to Astoria. And I apologized to Sean when we got to Ben's. And I said, look, I didn't realize it was that big of a deal. It's probably not the most sensitive or caring thing I've ever done. And Sean said, yeah, that's fine. And I remember Sean helped me tie my tie that night. Not like a half hour after he was really very stressed. And I'm not saying that's the most fitting bow to like tie up this interview with. It's not. But at the same time, I'm 31 years old, and obviously I remember the funny parts of the story because it was funny, man. I'm not going to pretend it wasn't. But what resonates now and what I think speaks to a higher cause than just like, I hope somebody laughed at this story, is you had a rough night to that point, and your reflex was still to say, hey, I accept your apology, and hey, do you need help doing that time? And man, I've said this before, and I'll say it again, man. I don't think there's a person in the world who couldn't learn something about the way you carry yourself every day, and take care of the people who take care of you. And I'm really very blessed and fortunate to call you one of my best friends, and I appreciate all you've done for me, man. Very much so.
Hey, Tom. Yeah, I appreciate it. I thank you for having me on this. This has been a lot of fun, and I don't know if I'm going to watch this episode in particular. I'll certainly catch the others. But just to wrap up and piggyback off of what you just said, I think we're both very fortunate that we grew up with loving families and with a group of friends that are generally just good people. And I think that's one thing I've always been really fortunate, or I feel fortunate of more so than anything. It's just having really good-hearted people in my life, and you're right up there at the top. And I cherish your friendship, and you know, I know we got plenty more years to go, and hopefully, some more stories will be coming. Hopefully, not as many late night New York City like drunken stories, and stories of real orangutan.
As long as the coupons work, I don't care what time of night it is.
Yeah. No, but no, your friendship means the world to me, and we really are fortunate. Looking forward to days ahead.
Awesome, man. So kind of you to say. Ladies and gentlemen, ears of corn. This has been the Corn Chronicles. The search continues. My very special guest, Sean Taylor, once again. Thank you so much for being on, man. Have a good evening, okay, my friend?
Thanks, Tom. You too. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. My pleasure.